crossing that's going on. So I encourage you, next time you look at a pineapple close up, you'll see that there's this interlocking leaf that's going on. Well, the same thing is happening with our palm tree that we're going to do today. So this painting inspired this painting. So it's just kind of a process my brain goes through. So I chose to do a palm tree. Here's a picture of a palm tree in black and white, right? But I love color, so I'm going to be adding so much color to this today. You can do it just green and brown if that's your thing. We're going to be using all of the colors. Speaking of color, let's just get right into it. I've got on my palette, I've got some red, blue, and yellow. Those are the primary colors, right? So you want to have that plus white. Because when I start out, I'm going to do that background sky color. So I'm just going to be using the blue and the white to make a pretty sky. And then we'll put that beautiful palm on top. I happen to live in a place where there's just tons of palm trees out my window. So they're so wonderful to look up. So I titled this Palms Up because we're going to be looking up at it. So we're not doing the whole base of the tree. I'm doing the top half, like his hat on top. All right, so get your paints out. Make sure you have some good brushes. I've got a hog's hair brush and I have a synthetic horsehair brush. One of them, this real rough one's gonna hold more paint. That's what I'm gonna be putting the sky on first. And this one, of course, is gonna help me with my palm fronds, drawing my cross hatching on the top barrel of the palm. And for those of you who like to be more detailed, if you want a smaller brush than this round one, like if you have a smaller tip on the end, that's going to be helpful too if you want to get some of these little fine lines for your palm tree, but it's not necessary. If this is all you have, go for it. If you're doing this in a watercolor or pastels will be pretty easy. You could follow along with watercolor, but you might need to let some things dry before you do a lot of these palm fronds, because then all your colors would get kind of mixed together. So just letting you know if you're doing it in watercolor today. And look at my canvas. It's a 16 by 20, but if you can see, there's some ghosting going on. I have refurbished this one. Someone donated it to me. Thank you. You know, I have been doing so many of these. I got to keep my supplies up. That's what your donations help me with. And so thank you for doing that. Okay, I've got a cup of water. Make sure you got that. That's not for drinking water. It's pretty nasty. So that's why I keep it in a yucky cup. I do have my drinking water, which looks better and good, and have a plethora of napkins because you might need to clean off your brush or clean up a spill or keep a drip from happening. And with that said, I guess we're ready to go. All right, let's start painting that background. So I'm just going to mix my blue and my white together. I'm so glad you're joining me on this beautiful Saturday morning, the first day of the month, new month. All right, so I'm color mixing as I go right on the canvas. I'm not taking my time to make a whole bunch of light blue. I just really want to get it on the canvas because most of it's going to get covered by a big palm. So I'm not being picky about the direction of the brush stroke or the color. I might even put a little yellow in there just to get myself a little teal going. So when you paint directly on the canvas like this without mixing, this is called painting wet on wet. I am just painting wet and going for it. You'll find a lot of plein air artists do this when they're outside because they just want to get that background on there and then get busy with whatever subject matter they're painting. In fact, some people might prep their canvas like this ahead of time. If they know they're outside and they're doing a sky, they might just go ahead and put all this on there in their studio before they go outside and look up. I actually took a photograph of this palm tree as I was laying in a lounge chair. Yes. And I thought that would be kind of cool to paint that. This has kind of been a tree and plant series we've been doing. If you were joining me on Thursday night, we had a lot of fun doing trees looking up, but it was a series of trees, 13 to be exact, in a 1-point perspective. There's no perspective in this one. Well, actually, there really is. I mean, you could say that the point is right there. Everything, all the little palm fronds are coming out of the top of the hat, top of the palm tree. See how I'm just putting this randomly on there? If I'm doing a landscape, I usually just paint left to right the way air flows. But when I just need to make a background for a portrait or for a single subject, I use my brush stroke going every which way. I don't want to have any direction, so to speak. And I'm covering right over whatever was there before. This was such a good canvas, I hated to throw it out. Just refurbish this one. I used to do many workshops for 60 or more people and doing those paint nights. And so I had a whole bunch of, usually everybody comes, they pay for the class and they get a canvas. So I don't have any more in stock because I've not been doing those during this pandemic. I've not been able to meet with lots of people. So it's a good chance for me to just cover over something. I showed you one that was ripped in one of my classes. And if you subscribe to me, you'll figure out how you could repair one of those ripped canvases. Okay, let's see. Almost got this all covered. It's good to cover your entire canvas because one, it's not as intimidating, right? It looks like you've done something today. A white canvas is very intimidating. And we want the whole canvas to have coverage so that it looks, one, it looks finished, and two, the canvas has an even coat. I mean, you'll be able to tell if you just painted the palm and you didn't paint some area, it'll just look unfinished. I even say if you wanted it to be white, then paint it white. Don't leave something raw. It'll just look wrong. Looks unfinished. Okay, I'm gonna make a little bit heavier blue toward the bottom here. I don't know why, but I just feel like doing that today. I can paint this 1,000 times and it looks different every time. When I painted it a couple of times and gave one away as a wedding present to my sister, I then got inspired a year or two later and did it in fabric. So I collaged it all in fabric and I put it through my sewing machine and I stitched through it, and it's totally different. You can look at my Facebook page later or Instagram and you can see it. Okay. I almost got it. If you run out, let's say I don't have any more paint, but I really like what I've mixed here. Just dip your brush in a little bit of water and that's going to extend it just enough to finish up what you were doing. See that? Because acrylics like water. Don't dip your brush all the time in water because then you're going to have a drippy mess and that's not going to be very much fun. When you're oil painting, you don't want to be dipping your brush at all in water because oil and water do not like each other. See, there's a reason to pay attention in chemistry class, kids. I did not like chemistry, but now I realize how important it all is, because all these colors are made from elements like titanium for white, cobalt for blue. Okay, I got this covered. I'm going to dip my brush in the water right now. I always store my brush in the water while I'm painting, just so they're not drying out on my table. Do not leave them in here all day, right? After class, you need to go to the sink and really wash them out. How do you wash a brush? I swish it around, and then on my napkin, I go back and forth like this. I don't squeeze the hair. If you squeeze the hair, you're going to pull the hair loose from the metal part. There's glue in there, and it's gluing the hair in there. And you just want to go back and forth till it comes clean on the napkin. If it didn't, that just means maybe your water's still dirty, or you didn't swish enough to get it off there. And then you'll keep your brushes for a really long time, because these are expensive. It's not easy to have all these supplies hanging around. Okay, now I obviously talked for a little bit just to get it to dry before I start drawing. So we're going to draw now the base, excuse me, the top, but it looks like the base in this picture. All right, I'm going to switch to my horsehair. Feels soft like a makeup brush, yes. So this is what I'm going to draw with. You could draw with chalk or a pencil. I just prefer to get right into it and not worry about all the drawing and the chalk at this point. I'm going to draw with some blue so you can see it. If you want to make brown right now, you can. You can mix all your primaries together and you'll get a nice brown. We went over that on Thursday night. You can look for that on a YouTube video and really look at those brown trunks, those trees that we drew. Okay, so I did mention that this was not a perspective. However, I am going to put a point because all things are going to lead to this point. So I'm going to put a point about 3/4 of the way over from the left-hand side. If you want your palm on this side, that's fine. Or if you want it in the center, that's fine. I'm going to do an asymmetrical, meaning that my palm tree is off-centered. Okay? And from that point, I'm going to have what looks like a bell shape or a barrel shape. So that's going to be the tippy top of my palm tree. Like I was a drone kind of getting up close and looking up there, looking for coconuts or whatever. So this is going to be my top of my palm tree. Everything else is going to come from that point. All of my palm fronds. I'm not going to bother counting all the palm fronds. There's a lot of them. If you want to have a certain number of them, that's great. But there's a lot going on here. So I'm just going to randomly start drawing them with the same blue. Okay, so I'm going to start with that point. I'm going to have one going down here. Maybe one here. Don't worry if your line isn't straight and it's crooked, because is there a straight palm frond? I don't think so. Maybe one that goes up to the sky. You can always add more later. You don't have to have a certain number now. You might find as you're painting that it needs another one somewhere, right? It just might need it. Just might need it. Everybody doing okay? Yeah, I don't want to go too fast, but there's my top, and there's all my funny hat on top. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and fill in the palm trunk right here. So I can make up a green, or you could make it brown, but I'm going to color it this base color of like a grassy green here. So I'm going to mix up a little of my yellow and my blue to make green. See, you don't have to have all the colors handy. And I'm just going to put that in here. I want my palm to be colorful. I want it to be fresh and green. And besides, I'm going to be drawing a hatch over it in a darker color. So I really want to have kind of this medium tone, medium value. That's just how dark and light something is. When somebody talks about value or tone, tone meaning, is it feeling warmer? Is it feeling cooler? Green's kind of one of those in betweens, you know, if you look at your color wheel. Sometimes it can be cool, sometimes it can be warm, depending on how much yellow or how much blue you have in there. Again, I'm just kind of mixing right onto the canvas. Sometimes I get some blue in there more, some yellow more than blue. It's okay, because I'm going to be layering a lot for this. Again, if you're doing this in watercolor, you could get to this point and then you're going to have to start doing some of your pom-poms now and then come back to this, because you need a lot of dry time with watercolor. Yay! Speaking of watercolor, I have a watercolor class starting online this week if you really want to learn more about it, more in depth about watercolor. Okay, so I've got this funny looking thing. Look, it just looks like a spider tree at this point. All right, now I'm going to go over here and use that same green and start drawing my palm fronds. Okay, so I'm going to use the same big round brush. I'm not switching to a little brush right now because that'll take too long at this point. I really just need to get paint on the canvas. So I'm going to paint a palm frond. How do you paint a palm frond? Okay, so you pretend these are the spine and all the little leaves come off the spine. Always paint in the way something grows or flows. So it's growing off the spine. Do you see how I have to dip after every little leaf? Because this brush does not hold as much paint as a hog hair. And in order to use up all the paint that I have on there, I'm twisting. So I'm laying it down and then I'm twisting my wrist to get that palm frond. All right, let's try another one. And twist. I feel like this is like an exercise video. And twist. Yes! Much more fun than exercise. Well, it's fun to go to the exercise class and be done. After you're done, then you go like, yeah, that was great. Okay. So I'm just twisting. It's coming to life. In our last class, we were twisting twigs. They were kind of holding hands. This time they're not holding hands and they're just fading off. Because with this nice round brush, I'm fat when I put my brush down at the beginning, and then as I twist, it fades away. So I get a skinnier point. These brushes are awesome. You can make a fat line or a skinny line. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next one. Oh gosh, this one overlaps over the other one. Great, I like that. Because it makes it have dimension. It makes it look like there's these overreaching arms and they are overlapping and touching one another and they're flapping in the wind. We're going to be doing a lot of these, so you're going to get a lot of practice. You might be palm frond happy after this. But it really is not that difficult. I mean, you might get tired of them. You could have some that go wayward, right? This one kind of went that direction. This one went south. We're going to do some dead ones too. We'll maybe put some in brown. But these are the healthy ones. You can have some close together. Okay, what about the ones going straight up? Well, you're going to go up, but they're going to bend back down, right? Because this one is further away from us. so we see what's in front, but we see a tiny little short nib as it bends back down the other direction. Oh, I bet you're doing awesome with this. Oh, I'm gonna go off the page because I can. I want this tree to look really big. I guess we can call it a tree. It is a tree, right? I know they have different types of palms. Some don't get very big. I like those big ones. The ones that you reach up to the heavens. Okay, I'm gonna go around over here. So I have opportunities for other colors. So that's why I kind of been skipping around, saving some space for other things, other colors. So it's very similar, isn't it, to the pineapple? Very similar in the way I constructed the art. Always just think about when you draw the shape of something. What's the shape underneath? And what is the line? Am I curving the line? Am I zigzagging the line? And you'll be able to do anything if you just tell yourself, what is the shape? And the shape is a series of lines, and lines don't have to be straight, right? They can be curved and crooked. In fact, in nature, which is what we're doing, there are no straight lines. Okay, I have a plan. I know exactly what's going on now. I'm going to go back to the top barrel here, and I'm going to start drawing that hatch that was reminiscent of the Fibonacci. So I'm going to make a hatch line with my blue, just doing blue right out of the can. And I'm making a curved hatch line. They're about 1.5 inches on my 16 by 20 canvas. You might be working on a really small canvas, so your hatching is going to be closer together. I have to work big today just so you can see it. Actually, I love working big. I'm not very much into small things. I usually work big on big murals, big walls. Okay. So see, I got one direction. Now I'm going to go the other direction. It's going to lock it all in. It's going to lock in all of those palm fronds so they don't blow away, so they stand tall. So now you're going to go concave in the other direction. Just like we did with the pineapple. If you're enjoying this, go back and review that particular video. Goodyear has put them all up on their YouTube site, their channel, so you get to see them all if you missed one. Okay, here we got it. We got it. Ta-da! Okay, now I'm going to go and make another color palm frond. So this time, well, I could just use blue out of the can. I did green before. I could do blue, but maybe I want to make it a little darker. Okay, so I'm going to add a little purple to it. Oh, yes. Blue and red make purple. I highly recommend getting a color wheel. It's the circle that you can find at the art store, and it has all the colors. It doesn't have brown or black or white because those are not colors. But it helps you with your color mixing and what colors look good together and what happens when you add black or white. Okay, so I made a nice little plum eggplant color. So now I'm going to make more palm fronds. See, these almost look like ones in shadow. If you don't want more color in your tree, you just make another round of green or brown ones, or change up the green, right? Make 3 shades of green, a light green, a medium green, and a dark green, so that you have depth in your painting. Yes, when I was cutting this out of fabric, I had to cut a lot of different colors. It was not as simple as painting them on here. I know it looks dark now, but it's best to start with the darker colors first. If I had the light colors first, then I would be covering them up with the dark ones. So I kind of like these dark ones going on first, and then I can layer the lighter on top. It's the reverse if you are doing watercolor. Pastel, you could always come back and lighten something if you got too dark, because the pastel sits on top of the paper. It's like a chalky. If you're using oil, that's a little more difficult though. Look at that. And some of you I know are artists and you work in different mediums. I'm so glad you're joining me today. This is great, even if you're a master at this. It's for all ages and abilities, because you're just spending time being creative and thinking about things in new ways. If acrylic painting isn't your go-to medium, but it's helping you think about what you do as an artist in your craft. Maybe you're a clay artist, so this could help you with your clay abilities just by the fact that we've walked you through the different shapes, right? And you're practicing depth perception. Okay, we've got a plan now, so we're gonna go to another value or another color that's a little bit lighter than these two colors. So how about I make up an orange or red. Now, red is very bold, so a little goes a long way. I don't have to do as many reds as I did purple and green. Where do I want some red? Oh, and my red's looking a little purple. I need to clean my brush and go somewhere where it is not wet, or I'll make purple again. And you're like, why is she putting red on there? Because I can. Because I just want to. You know, the sky makes up so many colors, and I love how things glisten and they pick up from things surrounding them. Okay, I'm going to make up an orange, so I'm going to use yellow and red. I'm just mixing right on the plate right here, and I'm going to put in some orange. This is exactly how I did it. Looks nice next to purple because orange and it looks nice next to blue because orange and blue are opposites. Okay. Okay, I probably need to let this dry a little bit before I start with my lime green and my white and my yellow, because I can see it's kind of getting a little muddy. It's still wet. So I'm going to go back now to my barrel over here and get started on that. Okay, so I'm going to mix up, I'm going to make a lime green. I'm going to take the yellow and what's left of my white here. I might have to get some more white. So I made like a lemon yellow. And now I'm going to add a teeny tiny bit of blue. I don't want a lot of blue. And mostly yellow, so I get a really cool lime color. Depending on what blue, what color reds you have, your colors might look a little different from mine because there's different types of blue at the store. There's cobalt blue, phthalo blue. I think I'm using ultramarine blue today. My favorite blue when I'm doing landscapes is Prussian blue. I really like that one. Okay, so now I'm going to just fill in a little bit some of these squares, especially the ones that are bulbous, like the ones that are pushing out toward me, because that'll make the palm tree look more round if I just put the brighter ones on the front of it. Yes, I'm going to use my pan, smush it in there real good. Okay, so I like that. Maybe I'll have a little one right up here at the top. I like seeing some of the green coming out behind it. Okay, now I'm going to keep that green because I really want to use it later on my palm fronds. I'm going to make a little bit more teal color. So I'm just using what's on my brush and dipping it over here into the green that I made for the original barrel. Maybe I'll just stick my brush in a tiny bit of water just to activate that old green. Just enough. I just need just a little bit because I want to now use that closer to the side. See, it's not as bright. And you have to decide where's Mr. Sun. So I'm thinking my sun is over here behind me, coming from my window behind me. So this is going to be a little bit lighter when I do the edge of the barrel. And this is going to be darker over here. So I'm going to make something a little darker for those squares. So I'm just going to add more blue. If you have any questions, please chime in, just chat, just write it into your chat box and she can tell me what your question is. Rosie can. I don't have to use your name. We can keep it anonymous. But there's no wrong question to ask. Yeah, so see how that's already looking kind of three-dimensional. All right, I'll let you get all that done. I'll let Rosie speak for a second. And I will wash my brush. Yay, I got it all washed. So Rosie's going to tell you a little bit about how you can donate or give me a tip for if you were enjoying your time today. I use that money to continue to bring you quality programs. We have 9 more, and that's going to be it. So I'm just 2 a month now. So they're going to be kind of stretched, but you want to make sure you go and catch those. And so she'll give you some links in your chat box where you can donate to my PayPal account or my Venmo account or my Zelle account, anything like that. If you just want to give $5 or $10 for my time today, and you don't have to. These are free. I'm just offering them through the fall, and but you can always sign up for any of my other classes that I got going on. So that's always fun. Okay. I don't know if Rosie's there or not. We'll just keep going. There she is.
Sorry, I went out to take my puppy to use the restroom, so I got a little distracted. But I'll link those in the chat box, and if you have any questions, please ask those in the chat box as well, or send me an email. I also added all of the classes to our registration site, so those are up for Thursday and Saturday. Deborah will show you what we will be painting for the rest of the week, and it's looking great. So keep enjoying our beautiful artwork that Deborah brings. She's great, and like she said, those tips are donations. the class is completely free, and that helps her with supplies and to keep bringing these classes to us. So we will be running them through November, and I will be posting those classes on our registration site as well as our website, so that you have further information and you have all the supplies that you'll need for the remaining classes. Thank you.
Rosie. I appreciate that. She's great. When I agreed to do this, I told her I needed a moderator, somebody who could touch the keyboard and talk to you guys while I'm over here. It's really, you know, I'd be making a mess on my equipment. And I'm glad she's there, and I'm glad Goodyear could have her join us. So over here on my left, that is what we're painting Thursday night, the prickly pear. So you can see it over there. So it's really cool. And then next Saturday, if Saturdays are better for you, because this will be coming up, will be the last Saturday class. So we'll be switching only to Tuesdays and Thursdays, but we'll be doing another thing up close. We'll do a barrel of the saguaro up close with the thorn and the thistle. So like I said, it's just kind of a plant tree month before we switch to something else. So if you like botanicals, this would be your time to do it. Okay, so let's get back to our palm tree. And by the way, so you can sign up, like she said, Rosie's putting that link up. You can sign up for Thursday's class right after you finish today. Let's go ahead and add a little bit more to this barrel. I think it'd be fun for me to add a little bit of white, maybe some highlights to the barrel itself. So I'm just going to put a couple little patchworks. I'll call them little patchworks. Just little pieces of white, just like it's been glistening. The white was capturing part of the bark on the trunk of the tree. And just for grins, maybe a little red in there. Just little hints of color. We don't want to leave him without anything fancy. He needs to be decorated. Okay, so that's kind of fun. Maybe I'll use a little of my orange. And remember I said this is going to be the side where the sun's hitting it. So I am going to just take a little bit of yellow and highlight that side of it, maybe a little white. I got to get that on there first because I'm about to just put all these palm fronds. So I need to get this kind of where I want it. That's why I'm working over here, because I might have some of the fronds coming over the top of the palm tree. Okay. Just little dibbles and dabs, right? I just like the little texture. If you looked up close to it, you would know that it's kind of got, it's spiny and it's got rough parts to it. And you'd want to have on gloves if you're trimming your palm tree. Believe me, I have to wear long sleeves and gloves because it hurts. It actually really hurts. Okay, so that's why I got these little dibbles and dabs and texture going on my barrel. Now I'm going to go back and work on the actual fronds themselves. See, this is going really well. I bet you thought it was going to be hard to do this one, but it's not that. Okay, I'm going to go back to that limey green that I used on the top of the trunk. And now I'm going to make some limey green highlighted palm fronds. I switched to a little smaller brush this time so that my fronds are getting skinnier, or maybe it's just a highlight of the actual frond. So maybe that's the light side of the frond. Like if this is a green frond, maybe I just want to have a little lightness to one of them. I know this looks very short handled compared to this one. This one was really long, right? I just didn't have handy a really smaller round brush that was long handled. Long handles are for painting vertically, and short handles are for painting when you're painting onto the table. So. I'm adding all those light greens. Now I'm going to put more focus of light green toward the center of that point. And you're like, why is that? Well, the things closer to you are bolder, more bright, right? So I want those things to be brighter. It's just a rule of thumb. These are very fun to do. Okay, I'm going to have a couple coming over the top. Yellow tends to be transparent, so that's what's nice about putting it on last. I can still see some of the green underneath it. Okay, so I'm twirling my brush too, just like I was before, to get all the paint off of it, to make a skinnier line. So I'm just twirling my hand like a little snake. Okay, I got just enough to do a few more in this color. Filling it all in. I never like to pour more paint than I really need. If you have lots of paint left over, and let's say you take a lunch break and then you need to come back, put it in a gallon baggie like I did here, okay? And it will stay moist for the rest of the day. You can even put it into the refrigerator and it will stay moist for the week. Just make sure nobody thinks it's mustard and ketchup. You might want to label it as your paint. But try not to pour more than you need. Some of you might be using more of a craft paint or a student grade paint. So some paint is more, like this one is more the student grade, probably doesn't go on as smooth. And then of course, if you want to go to a more of a soft body, more professional one, that they're just a little bit more expensive. But you could be painting with your craft paint, but you might have to do several coats because it has less of the, what they call the tint, even though in artist world tint is really white, adding white to something. But it tint meaning it has more of the colorant in the more professional grade and less of the other elements like the drying agent. Okay, we're just going along here, filling it in. I think I'm going to go back and have a little bit more orange now that my dark colors are dry. So I'm going to make up some more orange. Isn't that fun doing all the colors? As an artist, you do not have to paint what you see. I mean, photography can do that. And I think that's what was really fascinating about the artists who came along after the invention of photography, because they knew that no longer could they compete with the photographers. So the impressionistic painters and the expressionistic painters at the turn of the century, the 19th century, were really thinking, okay, I'm not going to be able to paint real, I can paint real stuff, but how am I going to make a living at it? So they started trying to just back out and look at shape and color and make an impression of what it might look like. There is no right or wrong in art. Some people love things to look very real, and others of you could be an abstraction. You may not even know it's a palm tree by the time you're done. Okay, I've just about got all of my warm colors in there, like yellows and oranges and limey green. And before I add white, because white's usually that last thing that I'm going to put on, I'm going to go back and make myself a really dark blue. So I've got that blue and I've got that red, which makes that eggplant. But if I add a little bit of yellow to it, I'm going to get a darker value, which is what I'm looking for. Almost a brown, but I want it to be a bluey brown. So that's what I made right there in the middle here. Because I really need some more depth, especially in some of these little pockets where I didn't have anything. So I'm just going to add some more of those in there. Maybe a few over the top. Now that I have my palm tree top finished, I want to put some of these over the top. They're the ones that are kind of in shadow, so they're darker. Some more going off the page. See, I told you might be adding more as you go along. And I think I need more out here. And these are probably the ones that are in the far back. So they're going to be kind of in shadow, in purpley or brown. Just adding. See how I'm adding to it. Oh, I can't wait to see yours. Well, right before we finish, we'll have a little show and share here. And you can also load your things to the gallery. Just send an email to me and Rosie, or you can just send it right to Rosie, since she takes care of the gallery, the art gallery part. And we'll have all of our palm trees together. You can give your art a title. Ooh, these are going to be really fat here in the front, I think. Need a little bit more water. I'm running out of paint. I need to extend it. I can tell when I see some of the canvas coming through. My paint's drying out. Ooh, this one's just going to be all purple over here. Purpley blue. Squiggly lines. Who doesn't love squiggly lines? I like squiggly lines. You can imagine when I'm trying to stitch this, stitch squiggly lines. Sewing machine. Yes, I have at times taken my whole painting off the canvas, you know, take the staples off the back and then run it through my machine. I do weird stuff. It's called multimedia. Okay, so I've got a lot of cool fronts going on. These look like the dead ones, you know, the ones you haven't trimmed yet. Okay, now for the piece de resistance, it's the white. The white does everything, and I usually add that at the very end because I don't want it to get muddied up. And you can splatter paint if you want. So this is the end. This is where we're heading. I need a little more white. Put some white right there in the middle of my dried up blue. And I'm going to paint some white. Like the sun is glistening on it, especially on this one right here. I'm going to pick this one. And sometimes I skip, I have lost lines. So I'm skipping. I don't have to do a solid line. You can skip it, right? It's just kind of barely touching it. Oh, skip, touch. Oh, skip, touch. Lines do not have to be continuous to be implied. They're just implied lines. See, they're not even connecting to the spine right there. They're just implied. And maybe a little bit over here. Oh, I think I need a little white patch there. And a little bit down here. Okay, now for the fun part. If you joined me on Thursday night, we practiced splattering. What is splattering? What is she talking about? Well, we're going to channel our kindergartner fascination. And we're going to make the paint do something fun. Of course, I'm working vertically, so I can't splatter too much. It's just going to drip all over the place. But I'm going to pull this one up closer to you so that you can see what I'm talking about. You can see all the tiny little dots in there. So what I did, I'm going to show you, but you're going to take two brushes and you're going to tap, 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 tap to make all those little dots. And some of the dots will be big dots, like that's a really big dot. And then some will be really tiny. I love that they're like a variety. And it just kind of adds a little, it's just kind of a signature thing I do. I just like adding more dibbles and dabs and dots. I don't know. It's just kind of fun. All right, so, oh, I think this one needs a little more color up here. When you step away from something, you can and come back to it, then you might see opportunities to add something else. I think it's good for you to walk away from your art. Take a little break, come back, fresh eyes, don't get frustrated. Yeah, I think it needed that. I think it needed a little off the canvas, like a leader line going there. Okay. Sign my work. Always sign your work. Sign inside the canvas. Be proud of what you do. right? Always be proud of what you do. You could paint the edges of your canvas after you're done today, because if you never frame it, then it still looks nice on your mantelpiece, not your closet. Don't put it in your closet. That's not fun. Nobody can see it. Okay, how do you splatter? Let's do it. So you probably want to have newspaper around, or you want to make sure the dog's not sitting underneath your feet because it's going to get covered with all kinds of paint. And what you're going to do is take 2 brushes. So I've got the one that I was just using, and I've got the one I was using before. And one of them needs to be the one with the paint and wet paint. Remember I told you before, don't make your brush too wet because we're not doing watercolor, but when you splatter, it won't splatter unless it's really wet. So I'm going to put my brush in some water. I just dipped it in my cup, my dirty cup. And let's say I want to do red first. So I'm putting red on my paintbrush. Make sure it's good. Now I'm gonna double dip with it in the water like that, just so it's nice and wet. And I'm going to tap it. See those dots happening? They're happening on my face too. So that's how you get all of that extra texture going on. And then you can switch, you can do all the colors that you used. Like I could do blue now if I want. The trick is having it wet enough. And if you get a big blob, I like that blob. I don't know, that's kind of cool. See what else I can come up with. Maybe some yellow ones. This is fun too in watercolor, by the way, making little. Just tapping near the metal part. That was one of the questions from Thursday night. Where am I tapping? How am I tapping? So I'm tapping on this because there's just a little bit more flexibility going on. If I tap back here, it's too rigid, and I want it to be more flexible in my. So I'm holding it at one end and I'm tapping with the other end. See, don't you feel like you're in kindergarten? Oh, I got some big drips. See, if you get some big drips and you don't really like that one, you can quickly get it with your napkin. Just wet your napkin a little bit. And I can take that little thing off of there. Just quickly. Because where I live, it dries fast. Okay. And you just keep doing that all over. And it's fun. Do I have any questions? Y'all are the quietest group. It's a big group. What a nice big group today. That means everybody got up. Some of you look like you're already finished. Some of you look like you're just concentrating really hard. Okay, so let's talk about Thursday night. Make sure you register for that. The advantage of registering ahead of time and getting the Zoom link is that you can communicate with me live, and you get to show show me your work, which I love to see it, you know, as you're progressing. That's what's fun about it. So let's see, let me bring this one closer. So this is what we're doing on Thursday. A prickly pear with a pretty bloom. You don't have to make it yellow. You don't even have to do an orange background. But this is very simple shape drawing. Again, there's some splattering going on. Love that. It's got a little shine to it, you notice, because after I paint, I put a little bit of sheen. I put a gloss medium over the whole thing, because if I am doing different types of paint, soft body, hard body, craft paint, whatever I was using, house paint, I want to knock it all to the same sheen so that it all looks like it was one type of paint. So that's, and it looks almost oily too, which I love. So that's a hint. If you want to email me, I can tell you what product I used for that. This one does not have a sheen on it yet. You can tell how flat it looks. I haven't put that on for our class next Saturday. So Thursday night, 5:45. This is Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And then after that, we only have 2 a month. So I hope you catch these. I hope you are able to join in all the fun. And please email me if you have any questions after class. And you can send me your work. And also, I do have a watercolor class starting, an adult class starting on Tuesday. And if you email me for that, that is a paid class. So I have to figure out how to continue these things and do what I love and bring this to you. Also, the gallery, don't forget the gallery. Send the pictures, title your work. You don't have to, you could be anonymous. You could just put your initial or your first name or something. You don't want your name attached to your artwork. But it's fun, and you can go see what's up there already. Oh my gosh. Okay, so people are already showing me their palm trees. Those are fantastic. I'll start with Maria's. Oh,